Captain Nemo's underwater ship, Nautilus, is equipped with the world's most advanced weaponry for the 1800s, including electrified bullets. But near the end of the novel, Nautilus is swarmed by a school of palps, which is the French word for octopi. It is almost always translated as giant squid, because one palpa in particular becomes entangled in Nautilus's propellers, and the crew has to go topside and battle it with axes, harpoons and knives. Reach thousands of education-minded users daily. The Minotaur is a cross between a human and a bull, and the story of its creation is a lot of fun. King Minos had a wife and queen named Pasiphae, whom Poseidon cursed with lust for a giant white bull he sent to Minos Island, Crete. Pasiphae would dress provocatively and saunter past the bull, but the bull didn't care at all. One of this lister's favorites. The mythos surrounding this monster varies with each tribe of the Algonquian languages, among which tribes are the Cree, Ojibwe, Montagnais, and others. As cited on Wikipedia, is the Ojibwe description of the Wendigo gaunt to the point of emaciation, its desiccated skin pulled tautly over its bones, with its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash grey of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. It hibernates for some 25-30 years, and wakes up during some horrible catastrophe or act of violence. It assumes the form of anything it wants, in order to terrify human beings, especially children, whose fears are easy to manifest. But its most common disguise is as a clown carrying balloons that float against the wind. Its first scene is the infamous Sewer scene, in which it stands up in rainy sewer, while little Georgie Denbrough is looking for his toy sailboat. Scylla is also one of the great stories of Greek mythology, but Homer, weatherman or committee, so popularized the monster that we think of it in Homeric terms. The story is a metaphor, similar to that of Daedalus and Icarus, for following the middle ground, and not veering too far one way or the other. Fenris, or Fenrir, is a colossal, shaggy black wolf, the offspring of Loki, god of mischief. According to the Heimskringla and the Poetic and Prose Eddas, Fenris will attack and kill Odin himself, the king of the gods, during Ragnarok. Ragnarok is the Viking Armageddon, during which time every single god and goddess will fight and die in battle. Almost all human beings will be destroyed in the turmoil, and the universe itself wiped out and recreated anew by the All-Father. Perhaps the purest entry on this list in terms of physical horror, Medusa is the daughter of sea gods Phorcys and Ceto, and in the original version of the mythos, she and her three sisters, also snake-haired and ugly, always existed in their monstrous form. It's the late edition popularized by Ovid in his Metamorphoses that gives Medusa the backstory of once being so beautiful that Poseidon raped her in Athena's temple. Hard to say which is more horrifying, the Balrog, or Shelob, the giant spider, or Ungoliant, from the Silmarillion. Out of a desire not to repeat an author twice, this list chose the Balrog and left Shelob off. Giant spiders are definitely not anyone's idea of something to hug. But the Balrog is a gigantic demon that can shroud itself in undying fire, and wields a massive flaming whip and a gargantuan flaming sword. It has claws of steel, and may have huge, bat-like wings of darkness. The first of three major villains in the anonymous epic poem. He is described as a descendant of Cain, the world's first murderer, whose lineage God cursed with atrocious physical deformities. Grendel is never physically described in the poem except to say that he is a horrific creature, very terrible to look upon. He becomes enraged, probably by the people's loud carousing every night in the mead hall of Heorot, and proceeds to break in during the festivities one night, and devour 30 men. He is a monstrous nightmare. The reason he is so horrifying is because of Carroll's masterful description of him using blends, portmanteaus. He concocted new words throughout his famous poem, the Jabberwocky, to lend an air of nonsense, but with that nonsense comes fear. We are afraid of things we cannot sense. When the lights go out, you look over your shoulder at the drooling, horrifying monster you know is instantly panting behind you, ready to strip the flesh off your bones